Hi everyone, my name is Nuria Gallego Lopez. I'm going to be your teacher for this subject of international economics, and this is going to be the welcome session. Okay, so here I'm going to talk about some important aspects that you need to know. Also, we are going to talk about how it's going to be the evaluation of the course, and I'm going to give you some recommendation about how follow this course. So of course I'm going to talk about the dynamic of the course given the actual circumstances. So something really useful for you is going to be to know my email address. Why is that? Because that is going to be one of the ways in which you can communicate with me. If you need something, please send me an email here, and please don't use the Aula Virtual mail, okay? Because it's just horrible. At least I think that. This is my office. Nevertheless, this course, given the actual circumstance, we are not going to use that because it's problematic. To start this course, you can see some document that you already have in Aula Virtual. The first one is the presentation of the course. We are going to talk about that document as in the other cases. The second case, or the second document, is instruction for the continuous evaluation. This subject is going to ask for a lot of work along the course, so that's why I'm going to give you some recommendation to follow that process correctly. And finally, you're going to find also an Excel document where you are going to see like a planning of the subject. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a first idea about how it's going to be or what are you going to see for each session. Well, in that first document with the presentation of the course, you're going to have some rules in terms of behavior in class. Typical things like don't use your mobile, try to be on time or at least in time, well, those kind of things to make easier the explanation in my case and the understanding for the rest of the people, okay? Also, something that is going to be quite interesting for you, I think so, at least, is how it's going to be the evaluation, okay? So, we are going to have like two blocks. In the first one is for the ordinary evaluation, so the first shot, the first opportunity to pass this subject. You're going to see like two big parts. The first one is the final, well, one of them is the final exam. That is going to be at the end of the course, and it's the university, the institution that is going to fix the date for the exam, okay? That exam is going to be at 30% of the whole grade, okay? The other part, the 70% left, is going to be the continuous evaluation. This is going to be a sort of complicated in terms that we have many things because it's 70%, so it's quite big. One of them is going to be the midterm. I'm going to fix the date of that midterm. It's going to be online, okay, because we don't have space to do this practice, this exam, under the perfect conditions in class. We are many people, we can be all of us together there. So that's why it's going to be online. It's going to be through Aula Virtual, and it's going to be in one of the level for evaluation. So it's going to be pretty easy to find that. Now we don't have anything, okay? So the midterm is 10% presentation. Why? How is going to be that? I'm going to make groups. Well, actually I'm going to use Aula Virtual application for the first time to do groups, and you're going to work in groups of 3 people, and you're going to do with that people these 3 things. A presentation of one topic. The topic is going to be part of the subject, though I'm going to explain everything, but you're going to be like a professor for a while. So the presentation, that is not going to be very long, and it's not going to be in class, okay? Instead of that, you're going to do something like the thing I'm doing right now. I mean, record yourself. Just looking at the camera and talk about a topic, okay? So, but it's going to be a short presentation, don't worry about that. That is a 20% of the score. Also, I'm going to ask you for exercise for each chapter. And that is not going to be really difficult neither. Why is that? Because I'm going to record myself doing the exercise. So the only thing that I want you to do is to look at me, understand everything, and then try to do it by yourself. And also that is going to be in the group, okay? Though, well, one recommendation. It's true that people like to share the work. So like you can do chapter 1, I'm going to do chapter 3, so on. That is okay, but always please try to see them for a while by Teams in a moment, never face to face, okay? But at least by Teams or Skype or any application that you want to use, the result in common, okay? Or at least like send your result to the rest of the group, because that is important to see mistakes and to also to learn, because the exam is going to have that kind of exercise. So it's important to be able to resolve all the exercise, not just my part. I'm okay, so if you want to share, if you want to like part the whole list of exercise, but you need to manage all of them, okay? So that is important. That is the main goal of groups, is try to learn working not only but in group, okay? And that seems like pretty easy, but it's difficult. It's one skill that you need to develop here in the university. I think that is important. So I'm not asking you for something really difficult. This part is especially to learn the basic things of the subject and also to learn in working together, okay? Because that is a way of saving your time. You can be very concentrated in one exercise, understanding that, and then search your information in a couple of minutes with the rest of the group. You are saving their time, and they can do the same for you. So you just spend a lot of time in one exercise, but the other exercise is done for other teams of your other member of your team, and they can share that information really fast. So the thing is, okay, I'm going to invest a lot of time in this, but because I know the other people is going to help me with the other parts, okay? It's a way of working together. That is really important. In fact, in United States, they do this a lot. Finally, but not sure, is the Stata practice. Stata is a software that I really like. I use it a lot. It's a software to manage big data set, and also you can do many statistic things, okay? So because this is going to be pretty difficult, given the fact that I have to prepare the material in a different way that I've done so far, I'm not really sure if I'm going to have time for do it. But that is my hope, okay? I want to do it. If we don't have time for that, this 10% is going to be split over the other 3 parts, okay? So don't worry, you are not going to lose this 10%, okay? So that was the ordinary goal, so the final exam, the continuous evaluation with all of this stuff. And what's going on if you fail and don't pass? You have the extraordinary goal. In that case, the exam is going to be at the whole score. 100% of the grade is in that exam, okay? So don't be worried if your continuous evaluation was a mess, because you can get the 10, okay, without that part. And my recommendation is try to do this the best way, that's all. More information about the continuous evaluation, I mean the ordinary code. Continuous evaluation, as I said, part of the work is going to be in a team. So that groups are going to be formatted by 3 or 4 members. I think it's going to be 3. I'm thinking on that. The midterm It's going to be a multiple choice test, so you are going to have multiple choice for each question. In fact, the number of questions is going to be about 15 questions. Each answer correct, you're going to add 1 point over 50, so to get the 10, you need the 15 right. The wrong answer is going to subtract 0.25 points, and if you don't answer a question, neither adds or discount, okay? As I said, this midterm is going to be online. That's for the continuous evaluation. What about the final one? As you know, it's going to be an exam, the final exam, 30% of the score. It's going to have like 20 questions. And in the same way of this, I mean, multiple choice questions, about 20, you're going to have like 90 minutes to do the exam. That is going to be face to face, okay? It's not going to be online. We are going to have an space. Nevertheless, I'm thinking about that, so it's not really sure, but we have many time to see how is the the reality by that time, okay? So now I'm going to talk about how it's going to be the extraordinary course. So if you fail and you don't pass in the ordinary course, you have the extraordinary course. As I said, that is going to be 100% of the score. So you have the opportunity to get the maximum score possible. So that means 10. So this is going to be just one exam. So there's not going to be exercise or something like that. It's just the exam. And it's going to be the university, the institution that is going to fix the appointment for that date. Okay, for the date of this exam. This exam is going to have two parts. The first one is going to be about 60% of the score, and it's going to have about 15 or 20, I'm not sure yet about those numbers, questions that they are going to be multiple choice questions. So in the same way as before, here also the correct answer is going to add 1 point, the incorrect answer is going to discount 0.25. If you don't answer, there's not going to be any penalty or any extra point, of course. And I'm going to ask you for a minimum in this part. The minimum in this part is going to be 2 points over 10. So once the exam is normalized. Now I don't know how many questions you have to have right here, because I don't know the number of questions that I'm going to introduce in that part. But when we are in this moment, so by June or something like that, I can give you that information. So then you can think about, in strategic terms, what number of questions I must have right. I must have right, and how many I can risk. So you can think in those terms, okay? But so here in this first part, at least you need a minimum score. Otherwise, I'm not going to look at this second part, and your final score is going to be the number that you get here. Second part is going to be 40% of the score, so it's not so big as the previous one. And here I'm going to ask you about, well, anything. It can be anything, of course, but it's going to be like an exercise. It can be 2 or 3 exercises, okay, depending on the size of each exercise. But about 2 or 3 exercises where you have to develop the whole thing, okay? When I asking about an exercise, is because I want to see how is the way of thinking, okay, by the student. So I want to see the whole process, and it has to be clear, because if that is clear and able to read it really well, and then you are going to get a better score probably than if it's something confusing and I'm not able to understand. Okay, so everything is important, also the presentation. And in fact here it's really important that at least, not just the presentation, that of course, but at least the whole process is there, because I ask him for that. This is something different. In that case, I'm just looking for the result. Okay, but here I want to see the whole process. so that is important. Here you are not going to have a minimum score, so at least it is in this part where you have to focus to get that part, and then you can develop the other, and then you can get more than a 5, so you go and you are able to pass. That is the main goal of this. Finally, the syllabus of the course is going to be something like this. So it's a little bit different with respect to other years, because I want to introduce new chapters. Well, the first one, so we are going to go more direct to the topic. It's going to be the Ricardian model. Well, more specifically, I have to say that all of this is going to be connected with international trade. More specifically, these are the theories that are behind trade. So this is a trade literature. Okay, so we are going to start with the Ricardian model. We are going to see that model more or less in a deeper detail. And then we are going to see the specific factor model. Then we are going to go to the Hess-Carolyn model, and finally the economies of scale, which is the most recent concept, or one of the most recent concepts. We have more, obvious. But this is like more close to the reality, though the others are also true nowadays. Okay, so all of these are like theories of trade. We can say that this is like the old theory, and this is just a new theory. Okay. Also, we are going to review, because for me it is a review of some concepts like GDP. I'm sure that you already know how is the way of estimating GDP. Nevertheless, we are going to see that again. How we can estimate the GDP, what is the meaning of GDP. Why we are going to emphasize the GDP and the different way of observing GDP. Well, we are talking about international economics, so GDP is one, like, the best way to look at an economy in a country in economic terms. So it's not perfect, but it's the best way of getting an idea about how is the development of that economy. Okay, so that's why GDP is quite important. Nevertheless, I have to say it's not perfect. Also, exchange rate, because we are talking about international. So international means that you have to deal with other economies. That can be by trade, also investment, FDI, foreign direct investment. So the exchange rate and the volatility of the exchange rate, it can be problematic sometimes, though here we are just going to see the concept. Okay, what is the GDP, what is the exchange rate, what is behind the exchange rates. Okay, so how can we observe that this variable is going to change? Why? What is behind of that behavior? And balance of payment, because it's also connected with international trade, with international, okay? So these three elements are quite important when we are talking about international economics. And though here we are going to just review those concepts in the theoretical way, okay? Also, GDP is important because I want to introduce this chapter about economic growth. Why is that? Well, here we are talking about international trade, which is really important, but also one aspect that is really interesting is when we are talking about what is behind of the growth of some economies against other economies that are really poor. So there is just a branch in economics that only look at this aspect, okay? Trying to understand what is behind of growth, and that branch is in economic growth. Okay, so here we are not going to be really in that part, but at least I want you to know that there is a part of economic which is really important when just the economics try to find what is behind of growth to make possible that poor economies becomes richer. Okay. Finally, if we have time, also I would like to see the Stata course. This is by sure, and this is what I want to, like an extra. I think we have time for two, at least this was sure, and these two things. I'm not sure about the syllabus, but my goal is try to do everything, okay? So as soon as possible, I'm going to start with this part. But now I want to talk about how it's going to be the dynamic of the course, okay? Because so far I've been just talking about how it's going to be the evaluation and what is the syllabus, but nothing about the dynamic of the course, and it's going to be different probably to the other professors. So about the dynamic of the course, how it's going to be the course of this in this year. Well, I have to tell, we are not going to use our online time, okay? Instead of that, that time is going to be for you. We are not going to do team sessions where I'm going to explain with the computer some concept. Why is that? Because for me it's really difficult to try to explain through a computer without a blackboard or something, or a place where I can write freely, easily. So instead of that, so that means we are not going to connect online, okay, by Teams during those weeks in which we have online session. Just remember, given the actual circumstance, the university has decided that we are going to have like 2 weeks online and 2 weeks face-to-face. One of the face-to-face week is for turn 1, the other is for the turn 2. And in those face-to-face session, my main goal is try to do something practical, okay? So it's like doing exercise, answer questions, or things like that, okay? That is when we are going to be physically in the university. When it's online, normally at least I think other professors are like making team sessions. I don't like that way, so instead of that I'm going to record myself explaining everything. I think that is easier for me because I feel like more able to do everything and explain everything, and also I think it's good for you because you can follow better the whole class without any kind of interruption. And also if you want to repeat part of the record, it's possible. You can go back and forward one and another, okay? So in fact you can watch the video as many times as you want and when you want. So it's like they're not excuses. You can do it during the weekend or whenever you want. And I'm going to have that material in Aula Virtual all the time, so you can watch that when you want. It's true that that is not really good because there are people who say, okay, I have many time to watch that, why I'm going to do it right now. My recommendation, because we are going to see many things, my recommendation is any video that I upload in Aula Virtual, you have to watch that video, okay? That's my recommendation. Nevertheless, I'm going to leave the video there and you can do whatever you want. Okay, so I want to this clear. Instead of team sessions, I'm going to put you the video of that week, okay? In fact, probably I'm going to put like 3 videos per week. Why is that? Because I prefer to do short videos, about 45 minutes, no more, instead of really long videos. Why is that? Because it's like, I believe it's easier for you, so you can disconnect and connect again with a different video. And it's easier to find where is the place in which you have a doubt or anything like that. So that's why I prefer to do like short videos instead of one long video, okay? So that's why I'm going to put like 3 or 4 videos per week. That is my goal, okay? And in those videos, as I said, I'm going to explain everything. In fact, also I'm going to do the exercise that you have to do for your practice, okay? More things. So I'm going to give you the videos, which is just like the explanation, like in class, something like we have had before. Also the slide, so you can see the slide. Also I'm going to give you the books of reference, so you're going to have the reference of the books that I use. My recommendation, I think, is enough with the slide. Nevertheless, if you want to check any of the book, it's okay. The best one probably is the one that is by Krugman, International Economics. Okay. Okay, more things. So you're going to also you are going to have the exercise. Okay, for each chapter. Basically, this is going to be the structure of the material that you are going to have. What do you need also for your continuous evaluation? Of course, you have to study that, but also your presentation. I said you have to work in groups of 3, more or less, 3 people, and one part of that work that you have to do is a presentation. In fact, I said you are going to be like a professor like me, because you are going to present part of this material, okay? I'm going to indicate in each chapter, inside here in the slide, the number of the group that is going to do that part of the material. And the thing that you have to do is, as I said before, record yourself explaining a concept, okay, or a part of a chapter. How many minutes per person? Like 5-6 minutes, no more, okay? I prefer something where you are explaining a specific concept clear enough that everyone is able to understand that, okay? I realize that that is not going to be always the case, because some concepts are pretty difficult, but well, it depends on the concept that you have to do. It's going to be different, and I'm going to consider the difficulty also, okay? But the thing that I want you to do in those cases, in general, part of those more complex concepts, the thing that I want you to do is just look at the camera, explain in a right way, and understand the thing that you are telling to the rest of the people, okay? You have to record that. It's a group of 3 people, so each of you have to record, put everything together in one video, and then send me that video, okay? Because I'm going to watch the video and I'm going to put you a score. So, this material is also useful for your presentation. Exercise. I'm going to ask, as I said previously, the exercise dossier. And this exercise dossier is just the exercise of each chapter. So each chapter is going to have a list of exercise. You have to do those exercises, and then at the end of the course, I'm going to tell you more ahead the date, but at the end of the course, I'm going to ask you for those exercises. They are going to be difficult. Sometimes yes, others no. In any case, it's not going to be really difficult. Why? Because I'm going to reserve the exercise also. So I want you to understand the exercise, that's all. My recommendation is, when you are studying for the exam, for any of them, is look at the videos, look at the slide, and do the exercise, always. So not just one time and that's all. Always that you study, do the exercise. Why? Because in the exam, part of the question can be this kind of questions, okay? So that's why it's important. So we've been talking about how it's going to be more or less the dynamic of the course. That course that is going to be online through videos, basically. But what about the doubts? If you have a doubt, what can you do? Well, we have 3 different ways of talk, okay? One of them is going to be by mail. As I said, use this email address, okay? No aula virtual. I hate that. This one. We can have an appointment through Teams. That is also possible. So send me an email and then we can fix an appointment. Or in class, as I said, those days in which we have face-to-face class, you can ask me questions. Okay, something important. Also, I'm going to do like a document for the frequent question. So that means if someone sent me a question and I consider that question can be important for the rest of the people, I'm going to write like the question and then my answer. Maybe that can help you. So take care about this frequent question document that is going to be also in Aula Virtual. Okay, I think basically it's everything. And finally, if you want to like record all your questions for one chapter, that is my recommendation. So for each chapter, have a document with all your questions. My recommendation, if you have a doubt in the video, just first of all, put your question or the thing in which you are not sure. Then tell me in which minutes of the video. In that way I can watch the video. Sometimes I make mistakes. So I'm going to be grateful if you just tell me, probably this is wrong, okay? So what time or what slide, the number or what exercise, and that's all, in a document. That for 1, 2, 3, all the questions that you have for as in a specific chapter, and then send me that word to my mail, and I'm going to answer you. So that is one of my recommendations. Instead of just one question, just record all your questions, but try to be specific about the doubt and where is the doubt.